Welcome back from spring break, everyone. Hopefully, hopefully everyone had a nice spring break. Welcome back. A little bit of housekeeping before we get into content. So I apologize. There are 8 of you in the blended class. This video is for both online and blended this week. There are 8 of you that I haven't finished grading. You are my priority today and tomorrow. I will get you graded, I promise. For everyone else, you should have received your feedback on all of the discussion so far, your law assignment, and your job description assignment. So some of the basic issues that I saw, the legal requirements. So exempt and non-exempt, they raised the limit, the salary limit, because that's one of our big criteria, from the 400 and whatever dollars a week to 47,600. So $47,000 is now the limit for exempt status, as opposed to it used to be 24,000. It almost doubled, and that went in effect December of 2016. So you're going to want to look into that, because I think some of you, when we get to our compensation assignment next week, might be in the wrong bucket. And I understand that your current job may be scheduled one way and never have changed, especially nurses. A lot of companies had to redo contracts in November of 16 because it was going to change their exempt status and how many hours employees could work and that sort of stuff. The other issue was the working conditions. You were supposed to be talking about the specifics, like right now I'm sitting, but sitting is not required for a job. For this job, the professor role, it's standard though, sitting and standing and moving around. But if I had some kind of disability where I couldn't sit in a chair, it could be accommodated. So a lot of you had really odd language in there about EEO stuff, equal opportunity stuff, which made no sense for working conditions, but I'm guessing it's something your company just randomly has there. This is the ADA section for the working requirements. Some of your companies are big enough that they might have their own ADA book, so it's outside of job descriptions. I was going with the most simple, the most clean, correct way to do it, which is to put it as part of the job description for the working conditions. You're going to want to factor that stuff in for our compensation assignment again. The last thing was the questions. Some of you were very clean and clear in your questions and really simple. And then some of you overthought it. You were, tell me about a time where you had to manage someone. What went well? What didn't go well? If you had to do it again, what would you do over? You just asked me 4 different questions, basically. So how do I score that? What if you answer the first part really, really well and the second part not so well? You basically made yourself an invalid question because I don't know how to score it. Years of service, 0, 1 to 2, 3 to 4. These are easy to score questions. Tell me about a time you had to manage a difficult employee. Boom. No other meat on the question. So I really think you guys are trying to come up with these really rich, complex questions. Well, those are impossible to score. And in this week's assignment, you're going to need to be able to compare candidates. So you need clean, easy to score questions. So if you got the feedback that your questions were compound, which is a problem, or seemingly invalid, you're going to want to revise them for this new assignment. So the 8 of you that aren't graded, I promise you will get it back today or tomorrow so you can feed that into your new discussion. All right, so, last bit of housekeeping. I have a conference that I'm leaving for Thursday at 1 o'clock, and it runs through the weekend. So delayed response times are going to be happening Friday and Saturday. Texting is probably going to be your fastest bet, but even then, there are a couple of sessions where I'm not going to be able to be on my phone or email. So if you're waiting hours to hear back from me, my apologies. It's an undergrad student convention that I'm the state advisor for, so I'll be very busy. But I will get back to you. So if you haven't heard from me, like you text me on Friday and you haven't heard from me by Saturday, you're going to want to text again. I just missed it. My apologies. But just know that it might not be the immediate beep beep like I normally do with text messages. So heads up, Thursday afternoon through, I think I get back Sunday afternoon. I'm not really sure what time I'm done Sunday. But I just might have a little bit of longer text times, and I'm not even sure what my email response time will be, but I've mentioned it before. I don't really check my email on weekends, so you're going to want to text this weekend. All right, on to content. So last week we had the job description assignment and the questions. This assignment for week 5 actually used to be part of the job description assignment, but I was told in the end of course surveys that it was too much, and they were basically being hit twice. So I split them up. So this is the other part of that. So the first part, just remind me of the job description. It was an assistant professor role. Whatever. Maybe you just put the job summary there in just reminding me. That's all I'm looking for there. Don't just put the words though, because some of you had really confusing job titles that didn't make sense to me because it's outside of my field. So maybe the job summary is probably your best bet. Just a paragraph. Seriously, just a paragraph. Based on the job description you created, who should be involved in the interview process and why? Okay, so remember, you're doing this outside of a company. Some of you got that feedback. I think 3 of you were like, this is housed in MSOE. No, no, no. No companies involved for job description assignment, selection assignment, compensation assignment, performance assignment. We have legal implications if you're putting their name and it gets published and no, just fake company, ideal company. You can even use that name, idealcompany.com. I don't care, but not a real company. But you can use your current mental process. Okay, so we have candidates. We should probably have the manager, somebody from HR, a team member, 2 peers, 3 people from sanitation, the CEO. That would be ridiculous, obviously. Or, this is a really entry-level position. I think we just need the general manager. Here's why. I am going to strongly encourage that you have a process. See, it says interview process, not who should be involved in the interview. So the interview process is contacting the candidate to get the interview set up, holding the interview, and following up to turn candidates into employees. So that's a process. Who should be involved? And if the words human resources are not in your process, I'm going to strongly recommend you go back and edit your process. All right, number 3, critique 3 various recruitment and selection processes to identify the most appropriate method for a given organizational content. So, recruitment and selection processes. This is targeted recruitment. This is interviewing. This is testing. This is, there's so many things here. You can Google recruitment and selection processes. I think I might even have them in our weekly sequence as some content. The interview system. So, I mean, really, what can you do from the time you think you need to have a new employee to the time you turn a candidate into an employee? What are 3 processes that would be the most appropriate for your role? So let's use the assistant professor role again. We're probably going to have targeted recruiting on highered.com. We're probably going to have credential validation, sorry, where they're looking at my transcripts and making sure I've taught the classes and earned the degrees and learned the content that I'm trying to teach. And maybe a third one is a background check or a drug test or an interview with the department or a teaching performance where I teach content to a group of peers, which is actually part of the process here at MSOE. So you're just going to talk through why those 3 recruitment and selection processes are the most appropriate for the role you chose. Okay. Number 4, analyze applicants to determine the best qualified and highly qualified applicants based on the job descriptions. Select 10 criteria and create a matrix to rate candidates for best fit and qualification. How will you assess each of the 10, interview, testing, etc. This is the one that gives people fits. I'm going to highly suggest there's an idea in training that we use all the time. It's the KISS method. Keep it simple, stupid. Sorry for the stupid at the end. Sweetheart was another one, but that got very condescending very fast. But keep it simple. That's my advice to you here. 10 criteria. So, did they pass the background check? Yes, no. Then you a 0 or a 1. You're going to want to put an Excel form together where you're ranking it. So your 5 objective questions, you already had scores for those. So maybe that's interview scoring questions is part of your bucket. I mean, it can be anything. In a lot of these matrix, you're going to have KSA match, you're going to have interview reviews, you're going to have whatever your recruitment and selection processes outcomes are, you're going to have some kind of thing where it is scored. The ones that I see most common have a standard, like the best an applicant can get is 100. And then you have everything weighted out where somebody literally had the max experience, max education, max best answer to every question you ask. They are the perfect candidate. They would get 100. Most people would get, like a 70, 50, somewhere in there. So then you're going to have, what are you testing? Your scoring bucket 1 through 5, 0, 1, go, no go, whatever it is. And then you're going to tell me, where are you assessing that? So if you're using your interview questions, you're going to write, where are you assessing that? The interview, obviously. If you're saying years of education, where are you going to assess that? In the background check. Criminal background, where are you going to check that? The criminal background check. So you're doing those sorts of things. So I'm going to have them do a skills test. I'm going to have them do an interview, a teaching sample. You're going to tell me where you're having them. So those couple of buckets. Hopefully that makes sense. I would show you a best practices one, but I don't like doing that because then you guys just kind of copy what they had. So hopefully what I gave you was good enough. You're going to want to tell me, what are you testing? How are you scoring it? And where are you getting that information from? It should not, let me repeat that, it should not all be from the interview. If you remember from week 1, the interview is the least valid, least reliable selection tool we have. We just use it because we're humans and we really like the interaction. So don't only use the interview. You're going to want to have other things. You can have things that are go, no go, right? We have a lot of nurses in these 2 classes. Do they have their RN license? No. Done. Get out. You're not qualified, right? So you can have that. I mean, some of you guys had engineering roles. Do they have their engineering degree? 0, 1. And this is a go, no go kind of scenario. If they don't have this, it's a deal breaker. Can't pass the drug test. It's a deal breaker. So you can have yes, no, like no need to go further in the process with it. Okay, that's our assignment. Hopefully that makes sense. It's due Sunday night at midnight, like all our assignments are. We have a couple of discussions this week. Forgot the content of the discussions. Hold on. It was a long break, and I've only drank a third of this cup of coffee this morning. Testing and selection. So let's go and see what those are about. Employee testing. Many companies require tests in the selection process. These can be pass-fail, like the drug screen test. They can be job-specific skills, knowledge, ethics, aptitude, other areas. Some roles require multiple areas, software skills, drug background, etc. Is it ethical to test prospective employees before hiring them? Defend with references. Okay, so you can't just say yes, especially because what are you testing for? Are you IQ testing your fry cook? That doesn't seem right. You need to make sure that you're saying with specific examples, like I think it's perfectly fine to have a welding candidate do a welding test to see if it fits. I don't think it's all right to test any employees. We should take their word on it because I believe in the good of all mankind. Reference, reference, reference. All right, good. All right, selection. The process of moving an employee from a candidate to an interview can be very quick. One meeting of the person and you're hired. McDonald's, you walk in, you interview, you're hired. Very complex, months, teams of people, etc. So this is an example where you can use the company that you're with or another company. Think about a process that you went through or are familiar with if you've never went through an interview process, and briefly explain the steps included and analyze them. What went well, what was unique, how many steps were there. Use critical reflection from an HR perspective and analyze the situation. Why do you think it was organized that way? So I was contacted by a recruiter via phone call. They scheduled an interview with me with the hiring manager that was done over the phone. I think this was for they didn't want to pay for me to be relocated or they didn't want to pay for me to travel for just an interview. So then once I passed the phone interview, I was brought to the site and met with a panel of peers, program directors, and again, the hiring manager. After that, I had to send in my official transcripts for my undergrad, grad, and doctorate program, which were reviewed. And then they gave me an offer letter, which we negotiated, and then I was given a contract. I think it was operated this way because of HR efficiencies, culture, that sort of thing. Hopefully that makes sense. Neither one of these require conversations with peers, but again, remember participation is you talking to each other. So although it's not required on a per week basis, this week it is going to be factored in as 10% of your grade on how much are you talking to each other, and just saying, nice post, Trina, wouldn't count. It needs to be like, hey, I was also interviewed by that company. I went through a totally different process. Explain, explain, explain. Do you think it's because of the department or the location or whatever? Interesting conversation abounds. These are both due Thursday at noon. Hope you have a good week with this content. Like I said, all of this used to be in week 4 as part of the same content, and it was asked to be separated out. So hopefully this is just a natural flow from the assignment you had last week. You came up with the job description and the questions. So now you're going to move into the process of, okay, now you have candidates. How are you going to select them and choose them? Hopefully that makes sense. If you have any questions, reach out to me hopefully earlier in the week because like I said, I'm going to be a little busy later in the week. But yeah, this week is going to be pretty good. And then next week we'll move into compensation. Money, money, money. All right. Have a nice week. I will finish grading those 8. I really apologize, guys. I tried to get it done over break, but I also wanted to have a break. So there's that. All right. Have a good one. I'll talk to you later. Bye.